Germinal center. Germinal center's right in the middle. Okay? Now you have the cortex. The cortex on anything is the outside. The only trick is, where's the boundary? All right.
Right here.
These lymph nodules that you just saw surround the lymph node. So anything above here would be the cortex. Anything in the middle would be the
Germinal center.
medulla, right? These are just general areas. General areas. They're not even telling you what's in there.
Where's the medulla?
So the cortex is anything to the lymph nodules out to the boundary. And anything inside, this isn't a particularly good inside because, let me go even deeper in, would be the medulla. Medulla is in middle, MM. Okay, this is kind of a half section here. So this would be, now be careful here. Okay, let me just not confuse you by, all right. The trouble is, this is so huge, it's hard to get it all on a low power. But you're going to see that this is lighter here. So this would be the medulla. When you start with the lymph nodules, everything to the periphery would be the cortex. Okay?
Slides for the practical? Are they going to be like actual slides or like...
These will be the slides for the practical, right what I'm giving now. Okay? Now, all this stuff that is not the lymph nodule, but lymph tissue, is called diffuse. It's not highly concentrated. It has no germinal center, so it is diffuse. Any of this stuff in here. I'm not going to point to any of these spaces because we're going to have separate names for that. So these lymph nodules are not diffuse, but all this is diffuse. We did the germinal center. Okay, medulla. Medullary cords. Where would the medullary cords be? In the
Medulla.
So you're going to look for these little white passageways. You're going to call those medullary cords. Like right in here. I don't know if those are the sinuses.
That's not where it's supposed to do it.
The white of the side.
Medullary sinus.
Yeah, it's pointing to these little passageways in here. You see this?
Did we see
Well,
it
it's
earlier?
down here, it's like in these purple spots is where these lines are going. On that part.
Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. My bad. The medullary sinus is the white, not the medullary cords. These would be the medullary cords. These would be the medullary sinus. Sinus. So these are cords, even though they don't look like cords.
You mean the subscapular
Okay.
sinus?
So
No, this is on the inside. This is the medullary sinus. Okay? The subscapular sinus would be just below the capsule. Does anybody have a picture of the, I'm not a picture, but this is the capsule. You can't see it from there, but this little area underneath the capsule is do you even have to know that for this one? Subcapsular sinus. Okay? That's that white. Not the black, but this little white. If you're looking for a sinus, you're looking for a clear, well, you're looking for a space that used to have lymph. So the subcapsular sinus would be just below the capsule. There you go. This is the capsule. This is the subcapsular sinus. These are lymph nodules. In the center of lymph nodules you have what? Germinal center. Okay? What is this rather diffuse lymphatic tissue called? Diffuse lymphatic tissue. All right? Medullary cords are actually the lymph tissue in the medulla that's between these sinuses. here's a lot of spaces here. This is what I point to. These are medullary, this has been cut off. So the rest of this is over here. It's just been sectioned, so just pretend that's not there. These would be the medullary sinuses. These would be the medullary cords. Okay? All right? Then we have the trabeculae. Now the trabeculae come in from the subscapular sinus, and they go throughout the cortex. Now here's a good one, right here. Okay? All right. This is called the trabeculae,
Which one?
right here. That's another space. If it's in here, it's called a sinus, medullary sinus. It's up here, it's the trabeculae. Actually, it's not just a space, but anyway, it looks like this. What do we call this sinus right under the capsule? Subcapsular sinus. So we have the capsule way up there. Underneath it, the subcapsular sinus. Here's the trabeculae. What is this called?
Lymphatic nodule.
Nodule, not node. The big thing is the node. This whole thing is the node. What's in the center?
Germinal center.
Right. What do we call this right here?
Diffuse lymphatic tissue.
Diffuse lymphatic. In the center, where we see these little spots surrounded by sinuses, what do we call that?
Subscapular sinus.
All right. These are medullary cords. This isn't the best slide. And you got sinuses surrounding them in the medulla. Okay? We're going to do this again next week. All right, that's it for the lymph node. Germinal centers have the B and the T cells. All right? What's this outermost portion? Capsule. What's the sinus underneath the capsule?
Subcapsular sinus.
What do we call, it's not really seen really right here, but the space is kind of between the nodules. We call those trabeculae. What do we call this center?
Germinal center.
What do we call this cell? Is this a B or T cell that I'm pointing to?
It's not in the picture.
What do we call these sinuses in here? And what do we call all the stuff between the medullary sinuses?
Subscapular sinus.
Medullary cords. Okay? That's it for the lymph node. Could I have the lights on?